I want to be conscious of everyone's time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. But first off, just wanted to thank you all for joining us today. We're happy you're here and really eager to talk about the new standard in farm accounting with the support of one of our awesome partners, Ashley from Precision Advising in conjunction with Rightworks. We hope you leave this webinar with some great tools, tactics, and real-world situations. And we're hoping this is, kind of just a conversation and a case study with one of our best partners here, Ashley. So just brief introductions. I'll go ahead and pass the baton to you, Ashley, Precision Advising. We're so happy you're here with us. We'll be hearing a lot about your journey today, but want to give you a moment just to introduce yourself.
Awesome. So my name is Ashley Lindberg. I have a remote and in-person practice. We do cause, so we cover everything from beginning to end on the accounting cycle. I am located in Northwest Kansas, so the heart of rural farming America. And I've had my practice for about 4.5 years. And I'm really looking forward to kind of giving you my story of how I ended up being on the cloud and using the tools that we are going to talk about today.
Yeah, we're super excited as well, Ashley, and thanks again for being with us. And then alongside myself, we have Matt from Rightworks. He's a sales engineer that works daily just to help elevate the accounting industry through their platform. And we're really happy to have you on, Matt.
Thanks, Erin. Happy to be here. Hey, everyone, my name is Matt Bitz. I'm coming to you today from Montana. As you can see in my background here, more of the southwest part of the state, but like Ashley, from the what we would call the Golden Triangle here, sort of the heart of farm country, dryland farm country here in Montana. Been with Rightworks about 9 years. Happy to speak with you all.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm Erin Arick. I'm an account executive for Figured out of Denver, Colorado. So Matt, we're not too far from each other.
Not
I'm
that far.
Yeah, just a short 12-hour drive. I'm thrilled to be in the ag world, really combining my Midwestern roots. I'm from Indianapolis, and also just my passion for farming, but also working with accountants. I get to help practices across the US really achieve their accounting goals, which is where Matt and I definitely have found some awesome overlap working together here, and we're eager to share that with you today. So what we won't be covering today, just to get this out, is we're not doing a demo or a product pitch. We want the next 50 minutes of your time really to be a practical conversation and with real experience, focus on how firms are overcoming barriers to advisory and, what a practical way forward can look like for you, your firm, and your clients. So just to start off, we want to touch on kind of the old way and, what we've seen a lot of firms working with every single day. So we want to acknowledge something important. We know the pressure just isn't on your farming clients right now. It's on you as well as a firm. Accountants are facing unprecedented times, and today we're kind of here to reframe that challenge. It's not about what farmers need. It's about, what's stopping you from delivering, proactive, scalable advisory for you and your clients. So illustrating the old way versus a new way, which we'll show on the next slide of farm accounting and advisory. This old way, we see a lot of, books that are a mess. There's not a lot of clean data to work with or to start from. You're likely using, disconnected systems or non-ag specific tools that are leading to a capacity issue or, systemized advisory. So kind of cherry picking for each client. And it often feels out of reach because, you don't know where to start. So that'll be really what Ashley's talking about today. But moving away from the old way, we have kind of worked with quite a few clients that are branching into this new way of working. And it's more about a streamlined, scalable, and fully supported path to advisory. It's a proven approach. We have one of our partners today that, has implemented it at her firm, but it's backed by Figured in the Rightworks ecosystem. And you're going to be hearing directly from Ashley, who has made the shift, achieving tangible results in her firm, with the byproduct of, gaining confidence and headspace to grow her firm, provide new high value services, and as well as hire staff, not out of a capacity issue, but really to enable growth. So a problem, everyone would love to have. You'll also learn how she effectively marketed these services to help that growth cultivate and keep going. So again, you might be thinking, this is out of reach. How do I get to this? This looks like a lot. I don't really know a game plan, but we'd like to get into now, how that could really look for your firm based on Ashley's story. Hi, Ashley. I'm so
Hello.
happy that you're on with us today. Ashley is one of our great partners with Precision Advising and Consulting. And we'd love to talk today, Ashley, just starting out in a conversation, almost like a case study of sorts. These are kind of the questions that we want to get through. But, first off, we want to talk about, what was your vision with moving towards this new way, wanting to transform your firm, and kind of where you started?
So if we rewind about 4.5 years ago, I was had a side hustle of doing bookkeeping and accounting for about 5 clients, and they were all on QuickBooks Desktop. And I decided to open my firm as I was getting closer to being done with school for my CPA and all the things. And I began to create a vision of what I wanted to do, and knowing where I lived and the number of people that might be able to work for me to be able to scale, because I knew if I was going to grow, I couldn't do all of it myself, that I needed to move to the cloud and actually convert all of the current clients and any future clients to QuickBooks Online, which is the cloud that I chose. I set this up because I knew QuickBooks Desktop and I was learning QuickBooks Online, and I was also wanting to create my why. The reason that I decided to start my own firm and provide these services is I'm somewhat of a serial entrepreneur, and I needed the support of my accountants, and I didn't feel like I was getting all the things from them. So when I started my firm, my plan was always to be advising and consulting, not bookkeeping and tax, because I wanted to be the helping hand or in the back pocket of my clients. My initial clients were all ag-related businesses or agriculture producers and or row crop farmers that had multiple entities. And I knew right away we were going to have to change over. So we defined our ideal client and set forth what that looked like, and really had to work through some challenges to figure out how we would get our new clients and our current clients to convert to what we needed them to do.
No, that's awesome, Ashley. And I love how you had almost like, I think that why is like really powerful, right? It's kind of fueling all the work that you're doing. And I love that you started from the beginning. You're like, I'm not doing tax, I'm not doing compliance. I think a lot of people here probably it is, okay, well, I am doing tax, I am doing compliance. How can I move into that advisory piece, which we will touch on? But that's amazing that you said, this is the type of client I want to work with. This is the type of work I want to do, all the while knowing, the main goal is to create those relationships and, be in the back pocket. I love that, how you said that.
Yeah.
Um,
I really like to, we provide all the services, but the additional part that we do is the advisory that you don't get in traditional compliance work. And that's the piece to the puzzle that makes it feel like we're in your back pocket, I think. So,
yeah, no, I love that. And you work with more than just farmers, correct?
yes, we work with primarily ag business, and then we also have farming and ranching clients as well. So,
Yeah, kind of anyone who touches the ag industry. Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I love that you had that North Star in that in your transformation. I think that that's really powerful. In the tough times, and especially in change, it's easy to fall back on like, okay, this is why we're going through all of this, and have that as your vision. But as you were working it's amazing to have a plan, right? But
Yeah.
what do you feel was holding you back in implementing that?
So there's quite a few things that were holding us back, and a lot of them just was more of an inner struggle and
Mm.
also a struggle with the client, thinking we needed to serve the client and that they could make the decisions. There were a lot of disconnected systems, people using spreadsheets versus things that were streamlined or automated. We had a lot of manual workflows and time consuming things to be able to get inputs and track livestock and things like that. Having to pull together multiple things into a spreadsheet and then hoping the spreadsheet didn't break. We also had fear of it being too complex with it being more streamlined, and that the farmers might resist the change, and not be as acceptable to do it the new way versus the old way. And I
Mhm.
did hear a lot of that. Well, my former accountant did it this way, or my so on and so forth did it that way. And convincing people that if they could run their cell phone and that they could take pictures, they could work with us in a way that was going to use our tech stack and provide them a better decision making tool by providing advisory and looking in the future versus just looking in the past. So that was the biggest thing, was just the fear of change, I suppose, and having the disconnected systems.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's completely valid. And I think what we forget is, even if our clients are resistant to using technology, they still are using it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've been so used to the accounting industry being somewhat behind other industries, right? Of
Mhm.
being kind of stuck in the past. And I think it's easy for us to think that maybe our clients are there too, but hey, you're on your phone every day in the tractor, or you're in your office as well. And I
Yep.
think, it's easier for them to digest than you might think. So I love how you kind of leaned into that. And you know, we don't have to do it how we've always done it, even if that's maybe
Mhm.
holding us back. Do you feel that your vision really pushed you to, move beyond that resistant to change and kind of be able to, you know, communicate that to your clients to kind of move that way?
Yeah, I think that was actually maybe the point of when I realized that that it didn't have to be an option. They could do it my way or the way they were
Mm.
used to. And that if I was providing good services and doing a good job and providing good advisory that helps them to grow and add to their bottom line, then they would see the benefits of doing it with our tech stack. And if they didn't, there was other people on a list that were ready to work with us as well. And when you simplify something that for a lot of people is very stressful when it comes to finances and tax and accounting stuff, most people are not a fan of it. That's why they hire people like us to do it. And when you take away the pain of that, that helps also to create that ease of them using what I would like them to do versus what they think they would like to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Leaning into that, role as their advisor, I think is really important. Like coming to you for a reason. And I think that goes really nicely into, what your catalyst was for change. And, all these things are holding you back. You do have this lovely vision. What finally kind of tipped you over into the new way?
I think really I started by, having the boot box guys where they're bringing us all the receipts and we're scanning them in anyways. And maybe they've been in their center console filing box, where they stick all their receipts in their filing in their center console. And most of them you can't read. And as I started to grow in the cloud accounting and knowing more about it, I realized that the farmers are already using all of this tech. They just haven't applied it to their account, to the accounting side of their business. So the moment I could get rid of the boot boxes and the numerous spreadsheets and figure out the tools that I needed to use so that we could create a process that was very much the same across the board for my team to be able to do what I call rinse and repeat. Although every operation is different, the process of getting us the information is very streamlined. And that will help us to not have to carry on with being only local and only providing services where they could bring us a boot box of stuff and we could work with anybody in the Midwest, or, I have clients I think we're in 13 states. So we're able to work with them, and it's very duplicated for every client that we add on. And my staff really understands that and is able to work remotely as well. So I have a bigger pool of people to pull from.
No, that's huge. And I know you kind of touched on you built this rinse and repeat process. What was it like to kind of create that? Did you have a mentor? Did you look to a different company, or kind of just, you know, uh, trial and error to get to
Yeah.
that
So
process?
I actually based a lot of my processes and like fine tune them to myself. But she's now one of my good friends, Alyssa Lang. She's with Workflow Queen, and I used all of her stuff with text management and setting up all of my internal things and how we process and how we're training our new employees, and all that stuff came together using her tools, tweaked for how we were going to serve agriculture and our ag based clients for the agribusiness as well. And then, we're going to talk about how Figure came to work in there, but there was something missing with being able to get to a field level thing. And when I found the last two pieces to the puzzle right now that I can see, it really brought everything together for me to have this firm that initially actually makes me, eventually I'll be able to be a removable CEO. So like if I want to do another business adventure, my business will be able to run on its own because the systems and processes are set up using all of this software and being on the cloud and connecting with clients in a larger area because we can do everything remotely. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love how, proactive you are, because, even right now you're like not wanting to step away from your business, but you know that that day might come, right?
right, yeah.
So having those systems in place where you could step away is huge. And yeah, what kind of ease and peace of mind that is.
Yeah.
And I also love that you let go of clients that didn't fit the type that you want to. And I think a lot of firms are really afraid to do that. But there are other accounting firms or, peers of your own that this is the type of client that they do want to work with. So
Yeah, firing my first client was really rough, but after that, it was pretty easy to say no, or at least I haven't technically had to fire anybody else, but I'm only accepting people who fit with what we want to do,
right.
and that helps. But that, like, if you've never fired a client, it's a little difficult, but very much a relief when you have people who fit with your systems and processes. So.
Yeah. No, and I think I'm sure that was a really tough conversation. And
Yeah.
did you find kind of when you set that standard that, people were resistant to move in that direction? Or obviously when when you leaned into your expertise, people kind of filed suit?
It definitely was hard at first, especially with my initial, I call them my OG clients, because they were used to what we were doing. And I think I gave them the most grace in getting them transformed to how we were going to do it, because they were used to me like coming out for a farm visit or doing things like that. And now I don't need to do any of that. I can meet with them while they're, planting corn or, feeding the cattle or whatever they're doing, because we have those opportunities. The one thing, because I didn't have a lot of clients to transform, I can't speak to what that would be like, but I definitely have to go through an onboarding process that really teaches our new clients as they're coming on how to use our stuff and feel confident in the way that we do it. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and they're not willing to use what we need them to do, and that doesn't work for us, and so we just have to let them go or not finish through the onboarding process. But honestly, it takes a lot of the stress out of trying to do the same thing 15 different ways. We only do it one way, right? So it just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think that ties in really nicely into, this is your new way, how you move forward, that really creates this space for you to grow and be efficient and be successful. And I'd love for you to just kind of expand on, what that exactly looks like.
Yeah, so luckily enough, in the beginning, I created all of the task management and our internal systems where my staff has all the training and information and things like that were already created, and our step by step how we do month end and what we do for our pipelines for taxes and things like that. But I was missing the piece where I could eliminate some of the spreadsheets for inputs and tracking cattle and a lot of the manual processes that we're using there. We're pulling the information from QuickBooks, but we're exporting to Excel all the time. And that's actually when I literally tracked down Figured at a QuickBooks event and asked about what they were doing and started working with them a little over 2 years ago. And it integrates and it gets us field level accounting, and we can provide cash flows and use the tools within Figured. So we're not using even more software. There's a lot of software we use, but I like to try to keep my tech stack small so that we're using it. And we're even using Figured for our agribusiness clients is in a commercial capacity. Then recently, I was struggling with like the QuickBooks, and if you're moving from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, they do the same thing, but they don't work the same way as a user. And supporting people who move over really becomes like a training aspect that I didn't have. And then you add in cybersecurity and all the things that we all have to worry about because of the internet. When I was introduced to Rightworks, actually through Figured, I realized that that was the next piece to the puzzle. They could help me migrate those people who are on desktop, which seems to be the case when I get a new ag client, and help me move that over and provide a very good platform and ecosystem for them. Matt's going to talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure. And then I also just didn't take on things that people who weren't willing to make those changes. And it just unlocked a greater clarity for me to be able to provide what I really love is the advising part of it, but still providing solid services to back up that advising, because your advising numbers are only as good as the bookkeeping, right? And also to be able to grow and hire and scale my business using all of these that work together and create just like the best triangle of a system to provide good advisory services to our clients.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love how you kind of, got a really good baseline with, your workflow, what you were doing with QuickBooks Online, and then you were able to so easily pivot, right? Because you had
Mhm.
that really strong system and workflow that, yeah, I can check out Rightworks. Yeah, I can check out Figured, and it's not going to completely change what I'm doing right now. So I love that. And I think it's clear we've covered a lot of the benefits that you got from one, having a vision and moving into this new way. You had that improved efficiency, standardized your workflow. We're working with, a tech stack, a number of tools, but just the ones that were working best for you, that then let you create really strong client relationships, which I think is all of our goals, right? This is why we do this, is we like to connect with people and, problem solve and create clarity and insight. And that obviously enhanced your advisory services. You got to do more of what you love to do. And then, you had a great problem. You were needing new clients to be able to do this new work, not because you had a capacity issue, right? You're creating sustainable firm growth, which I think is awesome.
Yep.
And kind of getting to this point, and feeling strong in what you're doing currently, any new goals for the horizon? I know maybe in the future, kind of step away as the CEO and have it run itself, but anything else kind of in the near future that you're looking to move into?
I think that I would like to actually help other accounting firms in that aspect of what we're talking about today, because I love processes and systems and implementation. I like to execute things, obviously. And I also really enjoy the advisory part, and I think that can streamline over into other relationships with like peer to peer. Um, I have like some random things in my personal life. I am a grandma, and of course, I would love to be able to spend a lot more time with my granddaughter. And she wants to adventure, so we would like to have that on the list of the personal things that I would like to do. And honestly, my true personality and when I feel the best is when I'm helping other people. And that's literally what I get to do every day when I provide advisory work. Sometimes it can be really hard and stressful, but I love to help people. And so I think no matter what I do, that will always be in the aspect of what I'm doing and presenting, because that's just who I am.
Oh, I love that, Ashley. Well, thank you so much for kind of sharing your story in this regard. I know kind of the other half of what we touched on briefly is working with Rightworks, and would love to pass the baton to you, Matt, and just tell us a little bit more about, Rightworks itself and how you work with the accounting industry.
Thanks, Erin. I'm happy to metaphorically catch the baton here. Thank you.
Yeah, passing it over.
Cheers. So, hey, everyone. Just reintroducing myself quickly here. Matt Bitz. I'm a sales engineer here at Rightworks. I've been with the organization since about 2016. As I said in my introduction, coming to you from Montana. I grew up, we all seem to have a common theme here, sort of a background close to ag. I grew up on a mixed operation here, a dryland wheat farm, and some commercial Black Angus. So I'd like to think that that gives me a good perspective on sort of the duality of the challenges in this conversation, right? Time working at a company that supports the accounting industry and all those challenges facing that profession, a life spent on a farm ranch. So familiar with those challenges firsthand as well. Um, I know the challenges, we use that word gets used a lot, right? In terms of both professions, particularly with ag, it gets talked about a lot. Not here to reiterate that. I think if you're on this webinar, chances are good you probably have a pretty formed opinion at this point of what those things are, what's most important to you in your area and whatnot. But one thing that we do want to talk about today, we are talking about in terms of challenges or challenges for your technology. And if you're on this call and you're a producer and you're thinking about your technology, or you're like someone like Ashley working with clients in an advisory capacity, challenges for your clients and how do you move that practice forward. I remember my dad got his business degree here in Montana, I think Montana State, around 1971, before he came home to the farm and ranch to take over from his dad. And I remember as a kid, I was just thinking of how far we've come, right? I remember as a kid, I go downstairs to his office, and it's mostly in the winter time, right? Because it's when you do a lot of your bookkeeping, right? It's cold outside, so you go into the office and catch up on that boot box that Ashley was talking about. Your boot box, by the way, was my glove compartment in a grain truck, right? You go to the elevator, you'd unload a load of grain, you get the ticket from the elevator, you stick it in the glove compartment. A few days in, Pop would go, "Hey, you better get those tickets out of the glove compartment." Oh, yeah, better get those. So that was my boot box, was the glove compartment in my old GMC truck. But I remember going downstairs and watching Dad do the bookwork, right? And he had actual paper spreadsheets. In fact, I think he's probably still got some paper spreadsheets, right? So I hear you, Ashley, on the like the challenges of moving a person forward in time and in technology, right? I think it was just to tell one more little story here, but I think it was around 95, my family implemented a program called CHAPS, which was Cowherd Appraisal Performance Software. I think I'm getting that right. I think it was University of North Dakota or South Dakota. But we got our first computer in the house. That was why we got our first computer. It was my family's first step into technology as an agribusiness, right? It was MS-DOS, is the good old taupe monitor and tower, right? and just all winter, just taking data on the cow herd, right? Plugging it in one keystroke at a time. Right. And that was a big challenge. I mean, the reason I say that is just to speak to like the challenge of moving forward, right? Like it's a big challenge, it's daunting. But we got through it. We got through it. We've come a long way, right? Here we're talking about thinking about my dad's paper spreadsheets and then MS-DOS. And now here we're talking about the cloud, which sort of brings me to Rightworks, who we are. So Rightworks is a purpose-built cloud solutions provider for the accounting profession and their connected clients. And so we've been around since around 2002. Our focus has always been to help those in the accounting and tax profession do what it is that they do best. That is run their business and serve their clients. I think you've heard Ashley speak to that very eloquently today, right? Like she wants her tech stack to fade to the background so that she can focus on the parts of the practice that are most important to her. But she needs to sort of get that technology piece. I don't want to say it's a blocker, but she needs to move it aside so she can really focus on what her gifts are in running that business. And we do all that by providing our clients with some very secure and we hope easy to use solutions and services. And then we back those products up with a very deep bench of experienced support and security people. I'm not going to read you the slides on the deck because God forbid we read content on the slides to the audience, right? But just know that our goal as a company is to really enable our clients to focus on their strengths. Let us take care of the tech that powers the business that underlies it, and be good at what they're good at. And in addition to that boots on the ground support of the tech stack, that day-to-day, pick up the phone and call us if you have an issue, we're also trying to be a thought leader or thought leaders in this industry as well. So you may have run into some of our folks out there in the podcast world, Roman Kepchak and others, talking about things that touch this profession. Our cloud hosting solutions can accommodate anyone from a small business owner who needs to host a single QuickBooks file to someone like Ashley, who's working with her clients via one of our platforms, moving them into this new way to handle their agribusiness accounting, all the way up to large, complex accounting firms with hundreds of employees and multiple offices in different states. So really, Rightworks is a company that if you're touching the accounting and tax profession, we would like to reach out to you in some capacity. But to be very clear for the folks in the webinar, if you're here as an advisor or part of the firm, Rightworks has a solution for you. If you're here as a frontline producer, that business owner, we've got tools for your small business as well. And Rightworks has gotten pretty big, at least for me, farm kid from Montana. When I started here about 9 years ago, there were just over 100 people in the whole company. I think I knew everyone by the end of the first year. Now we're over 700 employees. Sorry, I guess I did read a little slide content, Erin. I hope you forgive me. But we've expanded our footprint to include some international teams as well now. And we're headquartered out of New Hampshire, actually. But we touch around 10,000 accounting firms. And here's, I think, a statistic that's maybe a little more relevant for us, but we host around 3,000 different applications that are used across this industry. So I'm not going to say that we've seen it all, but I feel like we've seen most of it. And there aren't a whole lot of surprise. I'm not going to talk about AI today. This webinar is not about AI. I feel like we've seen most of what's out there in terms of what the applications are that touch this profession. And I think our experience there hopefully speaks to that. So, but just to talk a little bit more maybe about how we've supported, let me talk a little bit more here about our security. I think that's an important thing to mention. So one of the things that when we think about financial data, we think about compliance, we think about security. So just know that if you are thinking about moving in this direction in sort of what Ashley did, and this is something that we talked about with Ashley and figured as well in our conversations when we were forming this partnership, is just the security that we can provide to clients. Someone like Ashley, someone like that large firm, all the way down to that sole practitioner, that small business owner. There's a lot of fancy acronyms up here. Really what they all mean is that we take security really, really seriously, because we know that at the end of the day, your business is predicated on keeping the data, your client's data, that PII data safe. And we won't have a business either if we don't accomplish that mission. So we take it really, really seriously. We provide a host of security solutions across the industry, but really trying to come back to that idea of let us focus on the technology, get that out of the way so that you can do what you do running the business, right? And if you're thinking about, did I update these computers? Did I update the software? Did I update that weird box in the back of the office with the blinky lights? What's that thing do anyway? You're probably not focused on what the core mission of the business is. And if you engage with a partner like us, we can help you do that. So just like to take a minute there and talk about security. I think that's always good. But I think, just to talk a little bit more about how we were able to support Ashley here through this partnership with Figured. We're sort of the connective tissue here, I think. I think that's a fair analogy to make. Ashley is accessing her applications, including Figured and her clients' QuickBooks Online, via some Rightworks solutions. So we're providing her with support of her applications and then that security wrapper around her tech stack. And really, at the end of the day, it's a single pane of glass through which she can do all of the work for her practice. So Ashley, I know you were speaking about how you've got a tech stack out there and you're really being conscious and intentional about, I'll say weeding that garden, right? Like trying to keep it from turning into a tiger, that you got by the tail, right? Hopefully part of what we've helped you to do is centralizing that through that single pane of glass, makes that a little bit more manageable, right? There's only one web URL to log into. So Ashley's going to one Rightworks web URL each day. She's logging in there. She's launching her applications, including Figured. She's doing her work there. And then when she's done, she just signs off and she's out for the day. And all that data is off in a cloud somewhere, right? Part of it's in Figured, part of it's in QBO. But the point being is that it's out there, it's safe, it's secure in the cloud. And she has one way where we've helped her centralize all those diverse workflows. So I think that kind of goes back to one of our goals as an organization. We know that the applications all of you on the call here are using, that those things are very diverse. A lot of those maybe not built in the last couple of decades. And I've got a few in mind and I won't call them out since we are recording this, but I know that the technology that a lot of you are using is challenging in that regard. Now, there are folks out there like the Figured team, which is one of the great things about this, that are really starting to change that, saying, how can we be better? And we love that, right? Bringing some really great new tools forward for your profession. But a lot of what underlies it, right, the day-to-day, like Ashley's speaking to with her QBD clients, QuickBooks desktop clients, that's, let's say, long in the tooth, right? I think it's fair to say that. No longer the best fit for someone like Ashley, who's looking to leverage some of these more recent changes in how her clients are working, right? Like you can meet with a client now when they're on the tractor or when they're, feeding cows or whatever it is they're doing, right? So, how do you serve them in more innovative ways? And sometimes that old tech profile doesn't meet that need, right? So what we did here was partner with the Figured team to add access to their product via that Rightworks pathway. And that's where we go back to that single pane of glass idea. So we connected Ashley with our onboarding team. We have a team of people here who help new business get integrated onto the platform. We help them sort of ingest the data and applications and learn up on how to use the product. We do something specific with what we're talking about here today with QBD, in that we help those clients ensure from a technical standpoint that those QuickBooks desktop files are ready to be converted into QuickBooks Online. I think that's an important thing to call out, because that can be a little bit of a bugaboo sometimes. I know there's some companies out there you can ship that QuickBooks desktop file off to, and they'll turn a wrench on it for a while and send it back to you and it's ready to go to QBO. We help with that through the onboarding process, but we helped her get set up on that Rightworks platform. And anytime she needs us now, she can give us a call, she and or her connected clients who are on the platform as well. So just for all of you who might've been thinking, along these same lines as Ashley, right? Like, how do I get these clients over this hump? In terms of that move from QuickBooks Desktop to QBO, just know like we've got a team of people here who can help you do that. We've worked with a lot of folks over a lot of time doing this, and so we'll help you get there if that's something that you want to do. In addition to sort of making sure that that file makes it from the QBO format to the QBD format to the QBO format, we'll provide you with a third-party backup solution of that file once it's in QBO. I think that's nice. A backup of the file if you need to go back in time. And then we're just going to be your frontline support there as well. So if you're a Rightworks client, you can call us first. You don't need to call Intuit and then try to get us on the line and talk to Intuit while you're in Rightworks. We've had a partnership with Intuit for a really long time. We're very familiar with those products and we can work on them for you. So I think I've been talking here for about, my phone says 13 minutes, so that's good. So I think maybe, just maybe we can go back to that transition slide, Erin, if you don't mind. But I think, so maybe some of you are thinking like, oh, he said this company's based out of New Hampshire, like the East Coast, focused on the accounting profession. I'm a farmer in the Midwest. Like, what's this got in common with me? And I was thinking about that before we had this webinar. Like, what do we have in common with you folks? Because I've got this, odd foot in both worlds. And I think what really we have as a mutual interest here is managing risk, right? I think that all of you who are on this call today, who are out there in the field, or maybe you've taken a little time to get out of the field and come in and watch this webinar or whatnot, you think about it all the time, right? You're probably thinking about hail, you think about rain. There's always too much or too little. There's never the right amount. And we had a storm hit where I grew up the other night, and I guess it was like 2.5 inches of rain in a couple of hours. And supposedly, I haven't seen a photo of it, but supposedly one of my second cousins got his combine stuck in the mud, which is not a common thing that you see, right? I'd love to see a photo of it. But we think about risk. We think about risk. We here, Figured in Rightworks, we probably think about it a little bit differently, right? We're thinking about keeping your data safe. How do we validate the identity of someone using one of our products, making sure that's the right person, patching software vulnerabilities. But I think if you back out far enough, we're all here thinking about things along a similar line. So I think we do have some commonalities here. And just as regards to this transition, making a transition similar to what Ashley's done, just know like we're here to help take the risk of that away from you. We're here to help with that risk. We can't do anything about the hailstorm that might be showing up on the radar, but we can help you here. We can help you here for sure. Figured has a great product for your industry, and we here at Rightworks have a really good team of people who can help you move up to the cloud and get all those applications through one simple login and sort of stand down the rough edges of that as you do it. So it is really possible to make these changes, and Ashley's here today, demonstrating, I think that it's very possible. And I'm gonna close off my section of the webinar with one more little quick story. I think stories are helpful in these contexts, but I think it was around 2013, 2014. My dad and I got a new John Deere 9530 tractor and a new air drill. Now, I admit I've been working at Rightworks for some time. I haven't been on a tractor in the last few years. I know things have moved forward a great deal since then. But at the time, and some of you will know what this was, but at the time we just sold our Big Bud tractor, which had been on the farm longer than I had been on the farm. At least Ashley knows, that's good. And we had an old Flexicoil air drill that I had changed the hoses on that thing so many times it wasn't even funny. So that new 9530 really felt like NASA had just come over the farm and dropped it in on a parachute, right? Big computer monitor, lots of things to program in. We didn't know what the heck we were doing. We spent all that first day trying to figure out how to get it to talk correctly. And then the next day we called the implement dealer who had sold it to us, right? And one of the owners actually came out and spent all day with us. We got it all set up, we got it all dialed in. And then when the winter week came up that fall, we were really, really happy with it. We said, oh, it did an awesome job. Like it was worth the lift of the transition, right? And the whole time we were out there seeding, we had him on speed dial, right? In case anything came up, any lights on the monitor or whatever, right? But I think really what I'd hope you all leave here today is that we collectively figured Rightworks. And Ashley, if you want to make this sort of transition, we can be that implement guy on speed dial for you, and we can help you figure out the ways to move forward down this new path. So we all know that these new technologies can seem a little daunting at first, right? But as we start to peel the layers back and solve things one by one, they become a lot more accessible. That's what Rightworks does for this profession. I know that's what Figure does for the profession. That's what Ashley has done with her practice. So we're all here to help you run your business, be an expert at what you're really good at, working with your clients, working with your business, and let that tech part start to sort of fade into the background.
No, thanks, Matt. I think that's really important to call out. And I think you can have, this proven path to success, but if you can't, depict and get buy-in from your clients, it's nearly impossible to implement, which I think, Ashley, Ashley was amazing at telling her story, kind of highlighting that. But I think it's really important to frame, moving to the cloud is a benefit to your clients, it's not a burden. And you can very much, although you're moving to a modern platform, you're able to provide more things for them. So better reporting. So it's real-time data. If you're utilizing QuickBooks Online, you then can utilize Figured for that field level reporting. It's easier to collaborate. So again, it's not spreadsheets back and forth. Data is jeopardized, and you're just having more meaningful conversations, which Ashley definitely touched on. And I know you had used QBO before you added on Figured, Ashley. Did you have, what was your experience with that, and kind of what pushed you to want to use Figured? You touched on it briefly, but.
Yeah, so I actually, when I found out about Figured and the ability to get field level accounting and track livestock with by using the accounting system, at that point in time, you guys actually didn't integrate with QuickBooks Online. You integrated with Xero, and I, for a moment, had a thought of switching just so that I could use a software that would work with Figured because it had so many benefits of being able to track and allocate things to different fields and being able to get that field level overview along with the projection and scenario tools that are within side Figured. I had just chose QuickBooks Online because that's what I had, because I knew QuickBooks Desktop, so it was like the simplest transition. But prior to that, I was exporting everything to some type of built out spreadsheet. That was even before the spreadsheet sync with inside QuickBooks Online, right? That was a more newer thing, but it was just a lot of manual processes to get that information and inputs allocated to certain areas of the farm. We had 10 to 15 different spreadsheets that we now can all do with inside of Figured, just by connecting and the workflow being a lot simpler and also automated, honestly. So that is the difference by adding Figured, and it was game changing for us to be able to take on more clients that required that type of accounting and advisory services.
No, that's awesome, Ashley. And I think you're touching on a point, which is as advisors, you really are stepping now into a role of a technology steward of sorts. You have the responsibility to choose tools that best support one, your clients, but also your workflow, in whatever strategic decisions that you decide. And the key message is simple. You don't need to ask permission to improve your own workflow, because in the end, it is going to help your clients. And it's not a debate on, what's better. It's really a strategic decision on how you want to run your firm. But in turn, choosing the right technology will end up, building an effective practice for yourself, and that's ready for the future. So I think that's really good to touch on. And then lastly, how does it all come together? I think no matter where you're starting from, Ashley's approach can really work for you. So you have this foundation of Rightworks. They've helped with the enablement. They've prepared your data for conversion. They've given you that nice package to be able to work in every day. Byproduct effortlessly migrate to QuickBooks Online. Once you have that in place, you can go ahead and utilize all of the integrations and powers of that through the cloud, be able to, connect all the tools that you're using, including Figured, to better help advise your clients on a day-to-day basis. And then you can, in turn, deliver proactive advisories at scale, which is ultimately our goal. You're providing better client relationships, you're collaborating, and you're seeing a strong trajectory for the firm in the future, which obviously we touch on today with Ashley. But one final question for you. How do you think QuickBooks plus Figured plus Rightworks has kind of evolved your practice? Just to close things out.
Yeah, so I really like the word that Matt used a little bit ago about connective tissue. I feel like I don't know, I have bad knees because of being a dance teacher for a long time prior to this, and my cartilage isn't there, and it's like I found places to replace the connective tissues and things to make everything work together. It's a new relationship with Rightworks, and so I'm still learning the aspects of that. But the biggest one is the support for my clients to call them when they have a training issue with QuickBooks Online, which takes a lot off of my plate responsibility when we migrate them from one to the other. Figured has just transformed the way that I do. It's actually provided me the tools to be able to do the advisory, whereas it was a very manual process and I could only do it for 1 or 2 clients. In addition to, I have a lot of clients who have multiple entities, and we utilize Figured for that reporting, and it's pretty fantastic for that part. So it becomes the connective tissue to run my firm efficiently. And like I said, we are using it not only with just our row crop farms and our ranchers, we're using it in a commercial aspect as well, which I know they don't hit much on, but it's been pretty game changing for that as well. The one thing that I always want to, I've always had a goal of providing like that kitchen table experience for my accounting clients. Like when you go to their house farm site visit, at the kitchen table and talk about all the things, I'm able to provide that in a virtual aspect because I have these tools and I don't have to spend a ton of time asking a million questions to get to the point where I can provide the advisory. So I would say that it's definitely transformed it, along with my workflows and task management and the way that I've built my hiring process and having my employees who work for me from all over the Midwest. So
No, I love that. I love that. I definitely think, it's, giving you an opportunity to set you up truly for anything that you want to dive into, which is great. Just conscious of time, want to go ahead and touch on a few questions that we got actually from the registration. These first 2 actually are covered in our budgeting and planning PDF that we can, send after the fact. But I really want Ashley to touch on, how to streamline or efficiently plan for all of her clients, because I think we get that question a lot just in our conversations.
yeah, so the structure of my firm is set up as value-based pricing. So we actually include like the tools like Figured and some of our receipt capture and things like that we use as part of the value-based pricing. Or I like to list it as budget pricing because it's the same amount every month. But what we've done is look at the entire version of what we're going to do for that client and provide those different items. And we package those together based on frequency. How often do they want to meet with us? How frequently do we need to do the budget? Is it a rolling budget? Are we doing it weekly? Some of our grain guys want it daily. It just depends on what it looks like, but we create that system and kind of roll it all into one price that's the same price, so that our clients also don't feel like every time they call us, from their back, we're in their back pocket, that they're going to get a bill. So it's value-based pricing for the services that we provide is how we structure everything. And that ranges on price from anywhere, from it ranges on price depending on frequency and how many entities and how much. So it would be hard to pinpoint that. And we're able to access all of that in one area with Rightworks. So I don't have to figure out which login goes with what thing. So
Oh, no, that's awesome. And kind of touching on that as well, like with each tier, someone asked, like with at what point should my client be using this tool and what size farm? Do you use Figured with all three of those tiers, or do they kind of, graduate into utilizing our platform?
So anybody that wants any type of field level tracking and or we call it budgeting, they're using Figured. And that could be, I even have some hobby farms that were using Figured for to track their information because they want to know, did their mini cattle raise? So, they want to keep track of it like they would if it was a big operation. So I find we can use it in any of those aspects. It really just depends on the outcomes of what our client is expecting or wanting. And I tend to upsell those because that is how you make informed decisions, is having that information and looking at the future versus just looking at tax and compliance, which is historical. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, in terms of next steps, one, we want to thank you all for being on with us today, but we wanted to give you the opportunity, and I'll be launching a poll now, just to kind of indicate, what your interest is. And I know, Ashley, you touched on this, but she would love to meet with you for peer-to-peer support if you're looking to implement something like this. We also have some interactive demos that we can send. And then if you are wanting to get in touch with us here at Figured or Rightworks, we'd be happy to reach out and talk to you kind of on a more one-on-one basis. But I'll let y'all answer this poll before we sign off here. But Ashley and Matt, thank you so much for being on with us today. I hope you had fun. I know I did, and it was great to hear more about your story, Ashley. I had obviously heard a bit of it, but just to see it all come together, it's really awesome. And I think a lot of people, that's the goal, right? Is to kind of get to that new way and transform their practice.
thank you for having me. I love to talk about it and maybe save people some pain points and trying to figure it out. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's always the tough part. And I think we forget that everyone is kind of in the same boat at this point in time, moving to advisory, moving away from tax, and everyone's working on it. So we should be helping each other.
exactly.
No, it's great. We talk about this a lot with our clients at Rightworks, moving to that advisory side. So what a joy to be able to be part of a conversation with someone who's done it, who's doing it, and wants to help others to do it as well. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. I'll end the poll now. Please reach out. We will be reaching out in follow up and also with the recording. But we will look forward to seeing y'all next time.